Good day, everyone. My name is Eris Joseph Villavino, one of the members of Group 8, and today we will be presenting our research entitled The Perception of Butuanos on Mandatory Wearing of Different Types of Personal Protective Equipment. Now, before we get into our research, I would like to discuss first the background of the study. The study focuses on the use and the opinions of the people living in Butuan City regarding the use of PPEs. Let me read to you the background of the study. According to the World Health Organization, in December 2019, a deadly virus known as the coronavirus COVID-19 first emerged in Wuhan City, China. The case of the deadly virus infected hundreds of residents in the city. Those who were infected had to be quarantined immediately. Anyone who had any sort of close contact with an infected was immediately isolated from everyone else. Now, according to the WHO, it usually takes 5 to 6 days before a person is fully infected. However, there are instances where it will take up to 14 days for an infected person to start showing symptoms. So, for our research, you may see that wearing PPE is very, very important. On the 30th of January 2020, it was reported by the Philippine Department of Health the first case of COVID-19 in the country. The infected was a 38 female who was a Chinese national. The virus didn't stop there, since on March 7, the first COVID-19 local transmission was confirmed. This proceeded until President Rodrigo Duterte imposed an enhanced community lockdown on March 16, 2020. Mandatory wearing of PPE was enforced immediately. No one was allowed to walk the streets without them. This carried on for months and is still being carried on to this day. Though the wearing of PPEs like masks and face shields have been announced mandatory, some still refuse to wear them when going out. According to the DOH Center for Health Department in Caraga, it was known that the first case of COVID-19 in Caraga was on April 6, 2020. From then on, the cases started growing rapidly in different areas and started to spread all the way to Butuan. Now, as you may have heard, Caraga was actually the last region to receive their first COVID-19 case. With the months continually passing by, the number of infected people has increased tremendously. With people being locked in their homes, limitations occur within their households. A person can easily be driven mad when locked up and isolated from the world. This will lead to some people choosing to become unethical with their decisions. Due to this pandemic, many have not been convinced the use of PPE can reduce the risk of being infected with the coronavirus. Though some believe that it has been useful for us, there would always be some citizens who refuse to put on a mask and gamble their safety. To make matters even worse, some use it to doubt and forget why wearing of personal protective equipment is a must, especially during these harsh times. This will never be the main reason as to why the COVID count is still gradually increasing. The problem is that there are still some people who are not fully aware of the dire consequences and results of the lack of use of PPE. It was also stated by the CNN Philippines staff that Caraga was confirmed to be the last region to have its first case of COVID-19, as I mentioned before. The researchers have then decided to conduct the study in Butuan City, since it is also part of the Caraga region and is one of the few cities to receive the COVID-19 case last. This research aims to determine how the citizens of Butuan City feel having to regularly use masks and covers to protect them from the virus. In various instances, some people find it hard to believe in the scientific stuff they read or hear online. So the researchers have decided to look into that and discover why they either believe or don't believe on having to compel to the mandatory wearing of PPE. Thank you for listening.
Good morning, I am Rob Danielsi, and these are the theories that we have used for our research. Theory number 1, information processing theory, is a theory that focuses on how information is processed into our memory. The theory describes how our brain filters out information from what we're paying attention into the present moment. Theory number 2, cognitive learning theory, is a theory used to the mental processes and how they are influenced by both internal and external factors in order to produce learning in an individual. Theory number 3, ecological theory by James Gibson, developed this theory of perception and argued that the perception is direct and not subject to hypothesis. Theory number 4, social learning theory, highlights the importance of modeling, observing, and imitating the behaviors, attitudes, and emotional reactions of others. Theory number 5, interactionism theory, is a theory face-to-face process consisting of action, reaction, and mutual adaptation between two or more individuals. These theories correlate back to our research because they give a framework of what we hope to achieve with our research. Here are the problems our researchers did face. What are the perceptions of the people of Butuan City regarding the use of PPE? What is the effect of using PPE in people's daily lives? How can we determine the awareness and importance of using properly use of PPE. These problems give guidance to the researchers on having a direct advertised usage.
Our first RRL is an online survey was carried out 1,303 Bangladeshi adult residents to explore the issue. Results stated that face masks and hand gloves were widely used PPE, were around 45.5% masks and 31.6% hand gloves were disposable. Approximately 94.50% of the participants are precipitated to use at least one type of PPE while going outside. Only 18.65% of respondents are precipitated to burn the PPE-related waste, while most of them reported other less protective disposal measures. Females or residents and participants with higher education were found to have better perception and attitude towards PPE-related waste disposal. To the author's best knowledge, being the first exploratory study in the country, the present findings are considered to be helpful at policy levels with respect to prevention awareness programs. We read with interest the article by Zhao et al. Describing personal protective equipment usage among different groups of healthcare workers during the coronavirus disease 2019 epidemic in Wuhan. However, ancillary HCW form a minority of HCW survey. Emphasis has been placed on clinical staff as being at risk at HCW. However, ancillary HCW, such as cleaning staff and security officers, also have been substantial risk for work-related transmission of COVID-19. Furthermore, compliance with the infection prevention and control measures may not be uniform. Lower rates of hand hygiene have been reported among cleaners. Monitoring PPE compliance among ancillary HCW is essential during the pandemic. For our third RRL, or related literature, is from Celio. Compliance with personal protective equipment use is closely related with a professional's perception about the risk they are exposed to their susceptibility to these risks. Nursing professionals who self-assess the risk of continuous accident is low or medium in their work environment face a greater chance of experiments and accident in comparison with those who assess the risk as high. Professionals' knowledge about the risk in a work environment does not always guarantee compliance with the use of protective measures. In general, this knowledge does not turn into safe accident and occupational illness prevention actions, which marks the need for more effective action to change this reality. In this sense, understanding the factors that influence decisions making towards protection is fundamental to reflect on the practice of these measures in nursing teams' daily work and their strategies to enhance their incorporation in healthcare services. Thus, this paper aims to analyze nursing workers' reasons, attitude, and belief regarding compliance with personal protective. For our fourth RL, participants were asked to indicate which of the personal protective control measures, including hand hygiene, social distancing, avoiding touching nose, mouth, and eyes, and use of face masks they implemented during the pandemic, and the frequency of implementation for each measure. For each option, the scale was designed as always, sometimes rarely, and never. Participants will reply to a question which assesses their coherence to the curfew imposed by a local government outside of their working hours, with the scale always, rarely, and never. The application of personal protective equipment by ordinary citizens was evaluated individually. Individuals were asked to indicate which PPE they use in public areas such as supermarkets, with choices including gloves, surgical masks, mask, wrap, scarf, face shield, goggles, and I do not use any PPE. Participants were also asked if they applied hand hygiene before and after the PPE use, and if they adhered to social distancing rules while wearing face masks. This research is by Azi Boket, Yismail, M. Raghuler, and Tobit. For our last RRL related literature, personal or collective protective equipment refers to the tools that have the function of minimizing certain accidents, in addition to protect against certain diseases that can often be caused by the work environment. These research aim to analyze the perception of employees of a health unit regarding the importance of the unit to develop protection equipment. Therefore, a qualitative and exploratory research with field research was performed, showing the field research's questionnaires was applied to 11 employees of the health unit in Nativadadi. Despite the imminent threats related to a labor environment, the inconsistency of the use of personal protective equipment is still one of the main aggravating factors that cause the most serious work accident. Employees were aware of need to use collective individual protective equipment. However, during the routine activities, often do not use the equipment. So hope that research can avert further studies and highlight the importance of safety and health in the workplace. That's it, all for the RRL or the review related lecture. And Fabudara will explain further of this research.
Research design. This research employs the ethnographic type of qualitative research. This is a type of qualitative research that gathers interviews, documentary, and observations data to produce detailed and cohesive accounts of different social phenomena. This design was chosen to reach the objectives of the study, to understand the thoughts or ideas about mandatory wearing of personal protective equipment, so that the researchers can achieve all of the information in full from the people of Butuan to which the survey was conducted. With this type of approach, it can help us understand about what Botswanans think in mandatorily wearing of personal protective equipment. Sample and sampling technique. The researchers employed non-probability quota sampling technique in this research. The researchers selected 10 people of different social classes, religions, and social groups in Butuan City with a specific age that mostly roam in this city. These can be doctors, engineers, retired employees, teenagers, the janitors, and other blue-collar jobs to be the respondents of this research. These people were chosen for this research for diversity in living conditions and to determine whether or not their living conditions change their perception on wearing personal protective equipment or PPE, and also to find whether or not wearing PPEs is for the safety of their families, or rather because they were mandated by the government to wear personal protective equipment. At these trying pandemic times, people have been forced to wear face masks, face shields, and other forms of PPEs to prevent them from contracting COVID-19. This research will find out whether the different social and economic classes of Butuan City are wearing PPEs for their safety or because they were mandated by the government. For this research, the researchers went to different parts of Butuan City to interview 10 people of different social and cultural backgrounds to gather data on how they feel about this current situation. Research instrument. The instruments used in this research was a formal letter to address the respondents that the researchers were going to interview. The researchers employed the use of Wi-Fi to reach out and connect to the respondents, and laptops were used as the main mode of contact. The researchers also used a video recorder to record the interview. Sets of ready-made open-ended questions that are relevant to the topic for the respondents to answer via Messenger, video call, Zoom meeting, or Google. Data gathering and procedures. The researchers employed the inductive data analysis method. The data gathered by the researchers will now be analyzed and sorted by the researchers thoroughly and precisely. The data gathered will not be tampered with or be changed and will stay as is for transparency. The data will also be operated as soon as possible so that the information will stay valid at the time this research is being made. The information gathered will serve as the answers to the questions provided for this research. The results will tell us what the people of Butuan City truly feel when it comes to wearing PPEs or personal protective equipment.
Now to conclude for our research, first the researchers have gathered the collected data. They were able to come up with a conclusion for their study. Out of the 11 chosen respondents living in Butuan City, it was determined that the locals found PPEs to be very essential and important for the safety of our community. The response of the implementation of PPEs was given a positive feedback from the respondents. According to some of the responses, they believe that this helped reduce the number of COVID cases in the area and or community. Although this may be the response based on the provided data, it would seem that most people living in Butuan City are affected with the use of different types of PPE. Although not all, but some say that they are affected financially, while others say that the wearing of PPE is a hindrance to their daily lives. It was also found out that the citizens of Butuan City do have and practice their maintenance of the wearing of personal protective equipment. Though there are a few who are unaware of the proper maintenance, the results of the feedback from the respondents proved to be better than expected. Through this, we can determine that Butuan City is very much aware of the impact of the different types of personal protective equipment. In conclusion, the perception of the Butuanans on the mandatory wearing of PPE is proven to give out a positive response and believed to be beneficial to help put an end to this pandemic. Now, for our recommendation, To the future researchers, the researchers of this study recommend to focus more on observing in this type of research. As you may have read, the goal of this research is to determine the perception of the Botswanans of the mandatory wearing of PPE. With this in mind, observation is the key to truly determine the positive and the negative effects of, or feedbacks of the people around us. To the people or to the audience, or the ones reading our research, the researchers recommend to always prioritize your safety and to follow the mandatory guidelines or of the government officials. This might be difficult to follow at times, but prioritizing your safety and the safety of those around you is not only the government's priority, but it's also yours and is more important than gambling your life. The researchers would like to recommend this research to be used wisely and to help give insight to those who are unaware of the importance of the use of PPE. Thank you for listening. This has been Group A.